You there?
I am.
Oh my God. I'm worried I'm like hitting buttons because I'm trying to get my screen to move the um, image of you because it
Oh,
was hiding. Oh shit. It's a good thing I have. Okay, so my setup has evolved because what? At Firehouse, I was basically I had a switch. So the
mhm.
way my computer set up is I've got my personal computer and then I've got my work computer and then I've got my monitors. But then I have my keyboard and mouse. And what I had was one switch to rule them all, where I could just push a button and it would toggle between my two computers. But then I also could push a button and I could have one of my big screens for one computer and another big screen for the other computer. The
So
problem
fancy.
with that one is the keyboard and mouse don't know which computer to link up with,
Oh,
right? Um, so I don't remember which one it was. I can program it and have it tell me. But now I'm just having to manually switch it. And
mhm.
um,
That means you have to like physically unplug things, right?
yeah, yeah, every time I want to switch computers. And I was trying to get down to the wire. I really wanted to finish this task. So my God, I feel like now we spend the first 15 minutes of every call talking about my job. Um,
New tradition.
yeah, but what this problem was, um, I'm making a God, I don't want to say dashboard. I want to like distinguish between like dashboards, scorecards, and reports, uh,
Okay.
because I am stickler of stickleriness. And these guys are like, well, can we get like a dashboard for customer support? And because, everybody's a bro.
Oh,
Um,
for sure.
they're really not, though. Um, but, well, one of my,
Oh,
well, one of them is. Um,
well,
yeah. But they're like, can we get a dashboard? And really what they want is a pivot table. Like they just want a table with a couple of number columns. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's a lot easier. But the caveat is they want it self-service so they can run it. And I'm like, okay, well, let me put that into Power BI so that you can access it. And they're like, no, 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 no. Power BI is going to be phase two. I was like, okay. We want it so that, you know, the less tech savvy guy can still run the operation. And I'm like, but I'm doing a lot of data transformations. I
mhm.
gotta clean up some columns. I gotta add some new columns. I got to,
There is
make sure.
sorcery afoot.
Right. I gotta manipulate some datas.
Yeah.
And it's not like a direct, oh, well, we pulled this report and it was great. It's we pulled this report and it was hot garbage and I
Now
made
we
it
don't
pretty enough
understand.
for analysis.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
have a question that probably doesn't matter, but it struck me.
Okay.
What is the difference between a pivot table and a spreadsheet?
Um,
Or what is a pivot table? How is that different than any of the other things?
okay. A pivot table is just an aggregation. So let's say I have a list of IDs and this is my sales, my customers, my customer list, right?
Okay.
And then every customer has um, or oh, actually, better yet, I have a list of invoices by customer. So one column says invoice, and there's a bunch of invoices. Another
Okay.
customer column says customer, and these are all the customers who made the invoice. And then
Okay.
another column says amount. So a pivot table would aggregate the invoices or customers, however I want. So let's say I want to look at that table and it has all of the invoices that that customer has purchased during the month. Well, then I just want to see total number of invoices. So that's a count function, which is an aggregate rather than all of the individual columns. So if there's like 1,000 invoices total and this customer, did 10 of them, then I would say instead of having 10 unique rows, I would just put a 10 next to that customer's name.
Oh, I see. So an aggregate, what does the word aggregate mean? Combination?
Um, it is, yeah, it's combining them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'd have the customer and then it would say 10 and then it would be the total of all 10 of those invoices.
Yeah. So this is a report that I did the other day was they wanted to see the average monthly transactions for customers for actually all of our customers. So I ran an all-time customer list, and then I didn't want to run the all-time invoice list because that's a lot. So what I ended up doing was, or did I? Oh, no, 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 no. So I wanted the low volume customers because we're doing a campaign there. So I said all customers with less than 100 transactions average per month. So instead of taking all of the invoices, I just said, here are the, first off, truncated that list. Here's a list of the customers that were under 100 transactions on average per month.
Okay.
I've got my average monthly, and then I've got my total number of invoices that they've produced, and then I've got the total amount for all of those invoices. So
Okay.
I can show customer lifetime value, lifetime transactions, and average monthly transactions as units, right, or as numbers, and then I can now sort those numbers by customer, and I can even drill down from the company that they work for to the users level. And if I want to be even more clever, then I can, say what method of payment did they use? Did they use a credit card? Did they use cash? Whatever.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. You're very wizard-like with the technology.
Yeah. I mean, this stuff isn't like super exciting to normies. They're just like, can I just get the number? Like what
I'm
people want
interested.
to, well, you're just an interesting person because you want to, yes, yes. Um, I don't know. You like knowledge. You like to learn new things. And
I'm very curious.
a lot of the folks that I work with are not as curious. What did you say? You said that about me. You said, Nathan, all the people that you know, like most of them are not anywhere near as curious as you are or as um, determined to find a solution to a problem as you are.
Accurate. You have more, um, God, what was the exact word that I used? I don't remember, but you have more um, tenacity than the average
Mm,
person and more curiosity than the average person, more determination, more ambition. You're willing to work a problem until you get the solution, and then you're willing
or
to
die.
iterate for a more optimal solution. Whereas most people will just be like, I'm not willing to put any more thought or time, energy into this at all, whether it's solved or not.
Yeah, that's correct. And that's most of my stakeholders. They just want to know like, hey, did number go up? Did number go down? And they're like,
Very
well,
one
just
fish, two fish
what should
situation.
I do? Scenario A or scenario B,
You should
Um,
start throwing like Dr. Seussisms at people and just see if they notice. Like, I think you should go with the red fish. Like one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish. Like,
Oh,
which
that
one
would piss
is
them
it?
off so bad. They
And then they'd be
already
like,
don't like
what's the
talking to
red
me.
fish? But I was like, maybe they'll talk to you then because they'll have to ask, what does red fish mean? Be like, oh, that's solution number one.
No, you don't know these people. They won't that won't mean, "Oh, let's go ask him the question." That means they'll just be like, "Yeah, I don't understand what this means. Let me go to somebody else." And
Oh my
it's like
God.
and the somebody else is going to be on the tech team, and those guys we're going to talk about builds, right? We're going to talk about D&Difying our lives. Um, they're all int builds. They're all intelligence builds, and they have like no stat points in any other categories.
Just
Um,
information.
and
That's
so that's how they produce reports, is that they'll just they call them reports. I'm going to get granular. They just send data sets like, "Ooh, good luck,
there you go.
stakeholder. Here's a data set." You
Right?
know? And I'm like, could you go a little bit the extra mile for your customer?
Nope.
No, because they don't have wisdom and charisma
Nope.
to, because they didn't put any points into that. Okay, so this is for Scott, um, because he's one of my buddies from grad school, and he used to he used to hang out with me so that he could mooch off of my math homework. Um,
Oh,
but I mean, this is what I do though. As I like tutoring, so I was an accounting tutor in undergrad, and so I did not mind helping him with his quantitative maths. Um, and he was like, "Dude, you should be teaching the finance class." And I was like,
uh-huh.
"I could be teaching this finance class,"
Yeah.
which is kind of a disappointment, right? I went and I spent all this money on my MBA, and I realized that I could have probably taught most of those classes. Um, just because I'd been in the job world, I've, read all the books and all this other stuff. And a lot of the folks that were in the grad my grad school cohort were younger, right? Um, eh.
But
But
there you were.
but there I was. And so he sent me an Instagram the other day, and I'm never on Instagram. And so I'm like, I feel like I've got work to do when I go on Instagram, because I'm just like responding to people's messages
You
of
gotta
all of the
catch
stuff
up.
that they've sent me. And
Yeah.
I want to give a thorough reply. And so I sent him like 3 paragraphs, because he sent me something about tariffs, and he's like, "Oh, the tariffs and the calculation." And I was like, "Actually, the tariff calculation Trump's using is not that difficult, but it's not supposed to be, this big sophisticated thing. It's just supposed to scare people, to see, who your enemies are, who your allies are, who just falls in line versus, who do I have to convince?" So, people are talking about the tariff equation as being like this big thing, but it's not actually that complicated. Um, then he sent me another thing about taste.
Like,
And yeah,
like, what do you mean taste? Like, what's your taste in fashion or music?
yes,
Oh,
exactly. Yeah.
okay.
So this taste thing was about how we have upper, middle, and lower economic classes that are having different preferences for art and for style and for naming. And this reminded me of Freakonomics, where they talked about how when you name your kids, the different classes tend to name their kids, and the names tend to shift. So, or they tend to fall down tiers. So the upper class names become the middle class names, and the middle class names become the lower class names,
Yeah.
and then the upper class chooses like some cuckoo bananas names, and that's where you get, Elon naming his child fucking numbers, and Gwyneth Paltrow naming her children after fruits and stuff. Like,
Mhm.
just the highfalutin people are like, I'm gonna name my kid something, strange, and then you've got like the aspirational folks at the bottom, and it's like, I'm gonna name my child Harvard, or I'm gonna name my child something that sounds, fancy, right?
Yeah.
And this is where you get a lot of, black names sounding like, they're French because the French sound like French language, it sounds cool, right?
Mhm.
Est-ce que vous voudriez manger quelque chose? Like, ooh, manger,
Sounds fancy. Yeah.
right? And it's like, oh, you want to eat something? Like, it's, oh, 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 oh. Tonight we are French.
Yes.
So,
Inside joke, but I love it.
right, right.
Oh,
And so, you've got black folks, and this is where you get like LaShawn or Ladarius, and like the la in front of it, sounds French, and so it
the
sounds
Dasha,
LaDasha. The dash ain't silent.
my favorite ever.
Uh, um, ironically, though, like my my mom and my aunts also have French names,
They're very
and
traditional ones.
yeah, but they also grew up all over the world. Like,
Yes.
my
So it makes
grandparents,
sense.
yeah, my granddad was in the military, and so my mom grew up in Germany and Taiwan, you know, and so why they got French names is anybody's guess, but I imagine like naming them German names, or Chinese names might not have been ideal.
Right?
Um, but whatever the case, they have beautiful names.
You do.
So um, that's a thing. And upper register names their kids one thing, but then when all of the lower classes associate with those names, then it becomes an in-group, out-group thing. And it's like, oh, we don't want to be associated with those people. And this is something that you see a lot of the time in those rags to riches kind of stories where you're talking about trading places
Mhm.
where and this is for you youngins, this is Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy in the was it the 80s? Was it 80s comedy?
I think so.
Yeah. And what they had were these two guys that made a bet, and it was kind of like the Book of Job. God and the devil make a bet, and let's go ruin some guy's life. But that's kind of how it was. And they took this Wall Street banker, and they basically ruined his credibility, his job, and then they put him on the streets. And that was Dan Aykroyd, and they took this street hustler, um, Eddie Murphy, who was like, one of those guys who's doing the cup trick, and hustling people and selling
Yeah.
watches and just the whole thing. And then they made him a Wall Street banker. And so I'm looking at this, and there's always that sort of training montage whenever somebody elevates class status, and
Mhm.
they have to learn how to use the utensils. They learn the etiquette. They have to
Yeah.
learn how to wear the suit and how to, mingle in proper company, right?
Yes.
And it hit me because I was just playing Baldur's Gate, the last couple of days, and it was like, oh my God, they're they're checks. They're stat checks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so in group, out group behaviors are like stat rolls or little tests. And you have to pass the test enough times or with a high enough score that people start to associate you with that in group. It's like having the secret password to the club.
Yeah.
You can't get into my fort
Mhm.
unless you have the password, you know.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
password is, girls have cooties,
God.
girls got cooties, right?
Right?
Then now you're in the
Oh,
club.
that's so funny.
And so we were talking about networking, and this is what the article this week is going to be about is peopling the power of friendship.
Ah, yeah.
And what we were talking about is how um, the the rich folk are generally like the most adept at silently excluding people. Meanwhile, the poor folk are really good at loudly excluding people. We don't welcome your kind around here, you know?
Yeah.
Used to
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
one. So like but the thing is, I prefer it. I prefer someone to say you ain't welcome
Because then at
instead
least
of
it's obvious and upfront.
yeah, but here we are in Seattle, and that was the Seattle. That's the Seattle freeze. The
Yeah.
Seattle freeze is people um, passive aggressively or silently excluding you.
Yes.
Yeah, and so they'll be like, "Oh my God, we should totally hang out," and then they like exchange numbers, or they like, give you like a fake number, or they just never respond to your communications.
And then they
Um,
like secretly whisper to their friends, don't talk to
right?
her. Yeah.
And that's something that really frustrated me, when I first moved here as a kid from Alabama. And so I like moved from Alabama and everybody just like talks to you. And
Mhm.
then in Seattle, like nobody talks to you, but
Yeah.
like everybody just kind of knows shit about you. And I had never experienced that level of gossip culture.
Yeah.
But I've also lived in Idaho where like everybody knows everybody's business because, small town, and then they tell you that they know your business. And I'm
Right.
like, okay, well, that's interesting because
Hmm.
in Alabama, nobody cares about your business. Like, yeah, that's not true. Some people are nosy, but like, if they know something, they're generally like, oh, well, I know this thing, but I'm not going to say that to his face, you
Yeah.
know? And then the Idaho people are like, "Oh, I know this thing. I heard this thing, and I'm gonna say it to your face too."
I'm going to announce to you that I know it.
And I love that. I love shit. I love transparency. That's kind of why I like, Southerners and Idahoans. I like country people because country people talk to you. Like they'll tell you what's on their mind, you know. Seattle people, corporate people, they don't talk to you. They're just like, I will passive aggressively stab you in the back or hamstring you or set up a trap for you that you don't know exists. I'll make a test that you have no idea that you're going to take the test. You have no idea what the test is on, and you have no idea
How it's graded.
how it's graded. Yeah, awesome.
Cool.
Awesome. Welcome to corporate America.
Uh-huh.
And so this is, and I was reading a book about this. Man, I feel like we're just tangenting all over the place. The thing I wanted to get back was the roles, right? So you have a test, which is your secret handshake to get into the in group. All groups do this. All in groups and out groups have some sort of a test to determine whether or not you're cool, right? Fraternities, they call it hazing. Hazing is just in group out group tests. So what I was looking at is in my company, we have three distinct cultures. So, one culture is logistics. And so you've got the freight forwarders, the guys who know like the trucking, the warehousing, like all that kind of stuff, the shipping, those guys. Then
Industry
you've got
folks.
well,
The industry folks.
industry folk. Yeah. Then you've got the tech guys. And the
Mm.
tech guys are all like code this and architecture that, and they're up on, they really pride themselves in being able to solve a problem, and like how hard they grind, and like I spent 12 hours and wrote 150 lines of code, like
Sure.
they're real into that. And then you got the corporate guys, and the corporate guys are like, they're the most cowboy of the crew. They're just like, hey, can we shoot it from back here? How close we gotta get before we can get a bullseye? All right,
Oh
if we
my,
can't get a bullseye, how close can we get?
oh my God.
You know what I mean? Or they're
Yeah.
like, oh, this is a deal. What kind of deal? What kind of trade are we making? We're gonna make this
Okay.
trade, right?
Yeah.
And so each of those from D&D have like different stats. And so they each value a different character attribute over others. And so the tech guys are 100% intelligence. They're like, they don't put any stats into any other category.
Mhm.
The forwarders put a lot of their points into dexterity, and into um, they've got some dexterity, they've got some int, they've got some wisdom, um, and they've got some constitution because they take a lot of they take a lot of hits. They need a lot of hit points. So the industry guys are pretty well distributed. But int is not generally their strong suit. They're more like charisma and constitution and dexterity. Charisma, and so for the non D&D initiated, um, intelligence is generally like a wizard characteristic. They do lots and lots of spells and like magical shit. Dexterity is usually for rogues or for rangers. So if you're an archer or if you're an assassin or a thief, right? Like you got to have your sleight of hand. They're going to have like better points for deception and whatnot. The Constitution is your hit points and your resistance to damage. Dexterity, we talked about that. That's the rogue. You also sleight of hand is a dexterity thing. Charisma is for persuasion and how likely you are to be able to get yourself, out of a sticky situation.
Mhm.
So a lot of these industry guys are heavy in charisma, um, and dexterity, and that allows them to be good merchants. They're always making deals. They're always making trades. They're always trying to find creative solutions for things. Um, I naturally kind of like the um, I like the charisma. Our friend is very charismatic. He's very likable, um, but it's like I don't always like what he does. You know?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. So that's an industry quality. The corporate guys, their wisdom and dexterity and charisma. And I would say that they're probably their biggest attribute is like wisdom. They're more like sorcerers. So the sorcerer is a spellcaster, but they're not as like book learning. They're like hedge witches and they like figured out the spells themselves. You're a
Uh-huh.
sorcerer, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and then you've got the tech guys, right? So what you have now is a pretty interesting distribution. There's definitely overlap between the industry guys and the business and the corporate guys because they've both got, some charisma and they've got some wisdom stat. But whereas the dexterity is the major, I think, quality of the industry guys, the wisdom is the major factor of the corporate guys, and intelligence is the major factor for the tech guys. So, okay, now we've got a really interesting distribution, right? So we lean pretty brainy, right? I mean, it is a financial technology company, so we got some brainy
Okay.
brainy folks. Um, and yet the teams don't always interface well. And that's because the int builds will only care about one stat. How well do you code? That's
You
it.
code, bro?
Tech is like, can you code, bro? It's like, can you lift, bro? They don't care about strength. They don't care about constitution. They don't care about wisdom. That's the part that irks me is they don't care about wisdom. They're like, but it is technically accurate. And I'm like, but it does not solve the business problem.
And they don't care.
Precisely. Well, they care, but they're like, you cannot get like it's like you can't fire me for this because I have provided you exactly what you asked for. And it's like
Uh-huh.
you may have given me what I technically asked for, but you didn't give me what I needed. Well, then you will need to resubmit a more technically accurate requirements document. Woo!
Uh-huh.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep talking. I'm going to grab my water around the corner.
Okay. So this is the challenge. And so I can code pretty average. I know, like my coding is satisfactory and improving. But that's the challenge is because I don't code on God mode. Um, I'm not,
You're
I'm
not in the
almost
tech
like
club.
I'm not in the tech club.
Yeah.
I fail the technical knowledge checks. Except the IT guy. The IT guy loves me
I
because
mean,
he's the only guy who's actually got some like charisma stat and he's got wisdom stat and he's great. So I'm like, oh, man, can I get anybody else in the tech team who's got some like wisdom and charisma? Because those guys love me.
yeah.
And here I am, and I've distributed my stats. You know, I'm naturally maybe an ant in wisdom, with a lot of constitution points. So it's
Mhm.
like I'm a battle mage because I've got lots of spells and lots of hit points.
Yeah.
And sometimes I will conjure myself a flaming sword.
You will.
Oh, yes.
Very cool.
Um, but what I realize is, oh crap, I'm getting excluded from certain groups because what I value above most everything else is virtue. And virtue is a wisdom check, but it's also a style of gameplay. So the wise thing is often actually virtuous. Um, Now, the D&D club fans are going to at me for this because they're like, well, you know, that's you just playing on Paragon or Renegade mode, right? You play the good guy or the bad guy, and that gameplay style is up to you. I'm actually saying that that might be true in the video game, but in real life, virtue is actually wise
Hmm.
because it is aligned with philosophy, or at least in my definition of virtue. My definition of virtue is good for you, good for me now and later. And the higher the virtue, the more good it is for both parties and the longer the duration of the good.
Yeah.
So the most good for the most people for the longest duration is how you would scale virtue.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you can't be infinitely virtuous because you can't know, because again, you have imperfect knowledge. So you don't know what the optimal decision is at any time, which is where game theory comes in. And you have to make your best guess with the information available. And if you have uh, the full sight picture, you're going to be able to make the most virtuous decision. But we
Hmm.
can't always have the full sight picture. And so you have to make the most virtuous decision with the information you have available to you,
Yeah.
which often isn't the best thing for everybody. But if you're also constantly making bad trades for yourself, making lose win trades, then that's also not virtuous because you're not doing good for yourself. And if you diminish yourself, then you have a deficit and you can't help the other person. This is
Mhm.
the put your own mask on before helping the person next to you. Because
Yeah.
if you're passed out, you can't help anybody.
You can't help yourself or anybody around you.
Correct.
Yeah.
So sometimes by not taking care of yourself, you're actually making things worse for the team.
Hmm.
So,
I know that game.
yeah, don't we all? So, where this all goes in terms of taste and preference is about how to know what group you're in and decide whether or not you want to be in that group and how much you're willing to stand out. I stand out in a lot of groups because most groups don't look for, or most, like, I tend to have something about me naturally that excludes me from groups. In the South, I'm black, but then yeah, to say so the white kids they didn't like me because I was black. The black kids didn't like me because I speak proper English. The Um, what is it? The San Francisco crowd. They didn't like me because I was like, I have too many conservative values, even though lots of my values are also progressive. But it's like, you have too many like if you say any of your conservative things around here, then we're going to automatically label you that. So I just stick to the progressive things. But if I don't agree on every progressive point, then I'm going to get, yelled at or excluded into oblivion. And that's not generally good for whatever. So I mostly just shut the fuck up while I was there. Seattle, I'm scary. Um, oh my God, Seattle people are pretty soft. Like there's a lot of softies up here. And
Mhm.
so the intimidation factor is like, oh God, oh no. Like I think about Seattle drivers. They're notorious for being polite, but it's not necessarily that they're polite. I think it's that they're timid.
Mhm.
I see a lot of timid Seattle drivers.
Mhm.
So, um, and in the corporate, right? The tech is, I'm plenty intelligent. I've got lots of int stat, but I haven't applied my int to code until recently.
Yeah.
So I've got some ground to cover.
Yeah.
On the corporate side, corporate guys love me. Yo, the dude from the parent company, he's just like, he's like co-signing on all my stuff. He's like, oh yeah, do that. Oh, let's see that diagram again. Oh, I really like that documentation. He's like, he's in my fan club, and I love this guy. He's really genuine, you know?
Pagan,
Yeah, yeah.
he's so nice,
He's nice, and you
kind.
know. I reached out to him because like he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And this was like right after the fire, and I
Yeah.
was like in a bad mood. And and we usually have, the pleasantries like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" I was just like, "Can we just get into the meeting?" And he was like, "Okay." And then I like texted cuz he asked me. He's like, "Hey, how is your family? Are you okay?" And I was like, "I'm going to start crying in the middle of this meeting if I don't."
Considerate, kind man, like checking
Yeah.
on you, the person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that that meant something. And so the fact that he still checks up on me and he still like, keeps in touch, like he's already in above pretty much everybody else in the company. There's like three guys that I'm like, you're solid. Because
Mhm.
for me to get in with my in group, it's virtue check.
Mhm.
And most people fail virtue checks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, oh my God, this is gonna get me in so much trouble. Can I do the Abrahamic religions?
Oh, I sure go for it.
Okay. Okay. So Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Um, I was looking at these in terms of easy in, easy out. So what's
Mhm.
the difficulty to get in versus the difficulty to get out?
Yeah.
So Judaism is like hard to get into if you're not born into it. And even
Yeah.
if you are born into it, you're studying.
You got to live up to the standards.
You're studying the whole time,
Yeah.
right? So it's hard to get into and it's hard to get out of. This is where Catholicism, right? Catholic, universal, it's easy to get into and it's easy to get out of. Now, it didn't used to be easy to get out of, um, but then because it was so ubiquitous that like it didn't matter, right? Everybody just assumed you were, and if you weren't, you just kind of like kept it to yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking just recently. I'm talking about for like the last 1500 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you've got Islam, and that one's easy to get into, but hard to get out of. And of the three, Islam is the easiest to get into. And that's why it spread so fast. As a matter of fact, um, Islam spread in the beginning way faster than Christianity. And the Christians were like, "Oh no, every time we go to this house, if an Islamist has come by, then we're not going to be able to convert them."
Right. They're beating us.
Right. And it took, that's why I say 1500, because it took a couple of hundred years for Christianity to really catch on.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, that being said, I'm like the Jewish culture in that it's hard to get in with me and it's hard to get out with me. And yet, I will accept pretty much anyone so long as you're not disrespectful,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So but if you like, everybody starts out with respect, but if you lose that respect, then okay, cut off. Not like you are dead to me, but like, okay, you can't get into the inner circle until you demonstrate higher higher virtue, right?
Right?
Yeah. So, and then once you're my friend, oh, you're gonna have to work real hard to get rid of me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Same.
And that's you. You are, ironically, you're Islam. You're easy to get in with, but hard to get away from.
Like you don't go.
Yeah. I'm not mad at that though.
Oh,
Yeah, you can be a stage 10 clinger for me because you are also mad virtuous, which I love.
thank you. Thank you. Because ironically, that is the easy way out for with me. If you get in with me and then you're completely non-virtuous, I'm like, you can go.
Hmm.
You can mess up and try again, but if you totally lied, cheated, and stealed to get in, and then all you're interested in doing is stealing from me more,
Hmm.
that's a no for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, I feel like we now are gonna wind down with what the main point was. Chronicle
Oh yeah, that movie was wild.
and relationships. And if you haven't seen it, we might spoil it a little bit. But I would recommend you go see it. It's actually a 90-minute movie. It's nice because it's not something that you're going to be in there for a long time. Like every movie doesn't have to be 3 hours. Um,
Right?
but this movie really hit me when I first watched it. And I want to talk about it because it is a perfect example of what is happening with young men in the culture today. And you have this character, Andrew, who is he's getting abused. He's getting, beat up by his dad. Um, and he starts filming his life because he wants to get it on tape in case he needs to, take it to court, right? And so then he's recording everything. He just kind of gets into it. But he's kind of a weird kid. And the things that he's thinking about aren't the kinds of things that other high school kids are thinking about. And well, of course not, because he's thinking about like the meaning of life because his mom's dying. And you start to figure out, oh, why is he so distant and depressed and antisocial? It's because his dad's on disability and his mom is like literally on her deathbed and they all feel powerless. Everyone in his family feels powerless. And then they find some object, some alien object, and it gives them superpowers. And
Not his
now,
family, him and two friends.
him and two friends, yes. And so
Like what, his
now,
cousin, and then randomly the most popular kid in school who happened to be hanging out with the cousin at a big party.
right.
And they got
Yeah.
Andrew involved because they're like, oh, we found this cool thing. You've got a camera now. Come film us on this cool thing.
Yeah. And then they go and they film it and they see the cool thing. And then these three, get the superpowers. And then they become friends.
Right now, he's got a bond with kids his own age outside of, I mean, one of them's his cousin, but it's like they have something outside of Andrew's family that bind them together.
Yeah. And, here's this really popular, like the popular handsome kid. It's Michael B. Jordan,
Predator
and
class president.
yeah, and yeah, again, what I love also about this movie is just like the random stupid boy shit. And they're like, and they think everything is funny.
Right.
Like,
And they
oh
talk
my
about
God, we
girls.
almost died, bro.
Right.
Oh my God. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And they can move stuff with their mind. And so what do? They go to the mall and they're like fucking around with a teddy bear and scaring like people and pranking people. Like high school boy shit,
They
like,
move some
oh,
woman's car in the parking lot and then watch her look for it.
you
You
know?
know?
Yeah. And I was just like, oh, I love it, just stupid boy shit.
Hmm.
And here's Andrew, who has been just wrecked for however long. And now he has something good in his life. He's got friends. And he starts to open up to Steve, who's the popular kid. And like, what a crazy thing for the loner, the bullied loser to be best friends now with the most popular kid in school. And he
And
opens up
it's
and he
genuine. It's a very genuine friendship. Like they all support each other and respect the fact that they share this unique experience. Like the most popular guy isn't just like indulging Andrew. It's like, no, man, we're in this together.
Yeah, and he's not a dick about it. A
No.
lot of the time, you see the popular kid who's just a jerk and obsessed with his own fame. Well, he's not obsessed with his own fame. He just likes girls. Like
Yeah.
he's just like, oh man. And like anytime he like holds the camera, it magically drifts to some female, you know? Like, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And then the cousin, his thing is that he's like he wants people to think he's smart, you know?
Like philosophy books and stuff.
Yeah, and he like just pontificates and whatever.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Andrew's like the actual thoughtful one, and he's like, actually, maybe we should go to Tibet, and learn to use our powers and get some peace.
Oh
But
yeah,
like,
they figure out they can fly and they're like, let's go to Hawaii or whatever. And Andrew's like, I always wanted to see Tibet. The monks are there. I bet we could learn a lot.
yeah. So you've got this like these great characters and this experience that they share, and then they bond, and sure enough, they get into some trouble, and it's Andrew who's helping them out. And here's this kid who wants to do the right thing, but what ends up happening is instead of staying with the culture of his friend group, he gets sucked back into the culture of his family that just keeps suffering, one catastrophe after another. And what is his dad's example is, you know, I feel powerless. And so I'm going to exert what power I have over the one thing I do have power over, which is my son.
And then as Andrew's power increases, he's like, oh, suddenly I have power over everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the tragedy.
Yeah.
And if you think that's the tragedy, there's an even more subtle tragedy. And it's actually, I think, the main transformation. I'm going to ask you this. Who do you think the protagonist is of the story?
Ah, the cousin.
Yeah. Ironically, that's who we see. No, that's who we see in the main. There's a prologue and an epilogue. And
Mhm.
so the prologue starts with Andrew, but the
Yes.
main story starts with the cousin. And so he is really the protagonist. And there's another movie that does this really well, Joker with Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix.
Well,
Um, and you feel for him in the first half of the movie, but then he does something and it's like, you
crosses a
crossed the
line.
line. Now you're not the victim. You have like you have fully transferred over into villain mode.
Yeah.
And to see that transition is really painful. It's hard to watch in Joker and it's hard to watch in Chronicle because I've been that kid.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, I took a foray into the villainy. Um, and I was there for longer than I'm proud of. And maybe that's why virtue is so profound for me, is that I know what it's like to be powerless. And what was my attribute? I was dex and strength and constitution. And so, but also int.
High end. Yeah.
And so what I would do is I would set traps for people. High dex build is a rogue. So, and high strength is enforcer. But I couldn't always overpower people because I'm big now. But I think part of why I started lifting, I started putting stats into my strength was because there were certain circumstances where I just needed to fight because there were certain circumstances where I got beat, you know?
Yeah.
So that became a factor. And then intimidation became a tool. And I didn't make friends. Um, because if you just live somewhere, because I mean, again, I went to 9 schools, K through 12. So I learned as a kid, one, nobody's ever coming to save you. Um, and two, maybe that's why I like superheroes and comic books so much. But then two, that everybody is basically just expendable. And so I would figure out, I would get plugged into a new school, and then I would take the lay of the land and figure out who were the power players, who were the bullies, who was the big kid, and who had the most intimidation factor. And then I would go Casus Belli. I would give him a reason to beat him up publicly. And once I had done that and picked the fight with the biggest one, nobody fucks with me. And then I would start going around and, you know, assuming little alliances. But I didn't join any clique. Like the cliques would come and make their bids. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and and I would basically say, fuck all of you. I'm not going to need to know you. But then I would become on a first name basis with everybody. So my charisma stat increased. And so I started becoming an institution because everyone would know the kid who doesn't belong to any group, but knows everybody in every group. And, you know, I didn't have any real friends until I was in my 20s because I never knew how to maintain a relationship because I never had enough time.
Yeah.
All of my relationships ended after 12 months. And so my brother was the only um, long term relationship I had. And I didn't know I'd become the villain until I got pissed off at this one kid in high school track because he was making a big stink and he was always rude to everybody. And he was prepared to be rude to somebody, but then he realized that it was me because we both had the same pair of shoes. I bought a pair of shoes that were also
Mm-hmm.
his shoes, and he had to have the only pair of shoes that were that pair of shoes. And then
Oh, that's right.
he like took my shoes and was walking around, whose shoes are these? And I was like, they're mine. He's like, oh, well, you're black, so it's okay. And I was like, fuck you, dude. And the thing is, he was the fastest kid on the track. He was breaking all the school records. And so what am I going to tell that kid? You know? But I was mad because he was prepared to talk shit to me. But also, he wasn't going to talk shit to me. And he said, "Oh, it's because you're black." That was his way of saying, "I don't want to get my ass kicked in front of everybody right now."
Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, but I still have to look cool.
Yeah.
So I came home after that event and I was just cursing this guy out. And my brother's like, I don't know why you're so mad. You and him have a lot in common. I was like, what? 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 And then I had some self reflection. I was like, fuck, I don't want to be anything like that guy.
Oh man. Yeah. What a moment though.
And so back to the movie. You've got a lot of young guys who have no exemplars. And when you are struggling and there's no one around to help you, you just make the best with what you've got.
Yeah.
And if what you've got is dex, then you use that and you become a rogue. If what you've got is strength, then you use that and you become a bruiser, a brawler. And if
Yeah.
you've got int, then you become a mastermind. And I think that there are a lot of young men who are basically just giving in to that because they don't have any incentive to play a virtuous game.
How sad is that?
Yeah. And that's the transformation for the cousin is that
Yeah.
he was too self-absorbed to notice Andrew's pain.
And then
And
they
be,
share this experience, and he's like, oh, the cousin, as a result of this experience, becomes not only more aware of Andrew, but aware of everybody around him. The cousin is suddenly like, yo, we need some rules. We got to be careful. We're a danger to other
Mhm.
people. Like, if we don't pay attention. And he's suddenly like seeing what other people are seeing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now when he starts to see things more from Andrew's perspective, he empathizes and he's like, "Hey man, I'm sorry I haven't been like the best cousin, but we're family and I love you." And it's like Andrew never sees that video because everything goes south.
Yeah.
So it's just like, man, if he had been less self-centered, then he might have been able to truly help someone, truly save somebody. And I feel for the kids who have no examples, who have no good examples, and they're just getting by. They're just doing what they can to get by.
Mhm.
And I think about this with our boys, and I want to make sure that they have good examples. And that means that I have to remain that example. I have to be that. Ugh.
No
And it's
pressure.
hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I now have so much. I've always respected my dad, but now that I am a parent and a parent who has struggled, I now look back and have a whole new respect for the type of father my dad was able to muster it up every day to be, despite all that my dad was suffering and struggling with. And he showed up as a father regardless. And now
Yeah.
he says things like, I have XYZ regrets and all this pain, but my daughters and the relationship I have with them, because I have one sister, um, that's the one thing I'm truly proud of and that I feel like I did right. And he was there. He was constant and reliable and an impeccable example of not only who we should become, but how we should be treated, you know?
Yeah.
I have so much respect now. I always, like I said, I always respected my dad, but on this side, now that I've been a parent suffering, and you and I are struggling with things in our own like adult lives, and we're like, oh, we have to parent today too. We have to be interested in what happened to our kids in middle school at their lunch hour today, even
Uh-huh.
when the weight of other things that they're not aware of or don't understand feels really heavy, and you still have to parent.
Yeah. And
It's a
that's what
tremendous responsibility.
and that's what I forget sometimes. I think I came down last night and I started talking about this, and it was just like I asked Felix what his goals were, and he's like, uh like no no oh no, first off, I said, you're failing perception checks. This is now this is what I do around the
Now
house.
we're D&Ding everybody.
Yeah, it's like, well, when you look around the kitchen, are all of the dishes put away? And he's like, and they're like, yes. And then I was like, what about that baking tray with the remnants of biscuit that are still stuck on there that's been there for the last 2 days? I thought you guys were handling dishes. And he's like, oh. And I was like, did you not see it? Oh, well, I saw it. Did you not know what to do with it? Yeah. Do you know where it's supposed to go? No. Okay. So you don't know how to scrub it, and you don't know where to put it once it's clean. You don't know if it can go in the dishwasher or if you've got to clean it by hand. And so, too many unknowns, and you just said, boop, the dish does not exist anymore.
That's outside the regular scope of what I deal with. So I'm
And I
just
was
going to
like,
go around it.
failed perception check, failed wisdom check.
Oh, and the funniest thing about that is that both our boys are in D&D club this year, but our oldest, Felix, who we're talking about, has been in D&D club for 3 years now, and he's even been a DM. So now every time you say failed perception check, he's like, oh, like he really gets it. You know what I mean? And he's like, oh my God, it's come to life at home.
Yeah. And I'm trying to get Milo to pass some charisma checks, but that kid fails every single one.
And
uh,
he is putting forth an effort.
he the thing is, he's like full dex, he's like full dex build, and that's my weakest point at this point in life, and so I used to put all of my skills into dex because it was like, okay, I'm gonna be as flexible as possible
Mhm,
because anything could happen. I got
mhm.
to be ready and willing to change on a dime. Which, okay, I get it. At the same time, kid, you need to put some stats into int and wisdom,
Yeah.
and you
Oh,
need some constitution.
yeah, we've got to take his natural dex energy
Hmm.
and veer him away from going full road like thievery and deception. We've got to steer him into like a scout. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
or like a ranger. Because what is we
yeah.
watched Lord of the Rings, and he's like he loved Aragorn.
Oh, yeah. So we're
Yeah.
like, we need your dexterity in service of the team.
Yes.
He just does not know how to use it or where to put his natural abilities. He doesn't know how to expand and like maximize them, and he doesn't know
Mhm.
where to put those energies or skill points. So he's just kind of going with whatever feels the most natural.
Yeah.
And now
And
that we're
so
giving him guideposts and scaffolding, he's like, oh, this is really hard. I have to do a lot of thinking.
Yes, and that's it, is that the thinking is hard for him because he hasn't leveled up his int at all.
Yeah.
Um, and if you remember how painful math was for him, but 2 summers of me
Got him
drilling
there.
him on math, I'm like, bro, you are not gonna be bad at math in my household.
And now we've switched the focus to reading and we're getting him,
Yeah,
and it is painful. And
it's yeah,
it's painful for everybody. It's painful to watch your kids struggle, even with something benign like an
yeah,
academic. Our child is healthy, thank God. It's painful to watch your kids struggle, and it's painful to impose struggle upon them, even if the struggle is for their benefit. So,
yeah,
it's kind of rough on everybody because he has days where he's discouraged and over it and tired, and he reverts back and his emotions take over and he's difficult and complains. And then he has other days where he's like, so proud of myself. I did all my work and then I did extra. And we're like, yes, dude, get it.
yeah,
And he's
yeah,
putting in a real effort. And, that's the thing. Everybody's putting in an effort. We're putting in an effort as parents, and he's putting in an effort to become, to level up as a person.
yeah.
And it's hard.
And I'm again, I'm like super proud. And I'm I'm also super frustrated because
That right there should be the parenting slogan. Parenting, super proud, super frustrated.
yeah,
Done.
because here's the rub where he's concerned. And it's like I looked at this and I again got for you listeners at home, I stat like all I do is metrics, right? And so I've
We
got
all do.
metrics on my children. And
Mhm.
so every week we do a kid connect and we check in, and they get their grades at school, but then they get their metrics from me. So I'm getting them, and again, the metrics during the school year are not like that crazy. I have them do a workout. I have them write some journal entries because I want them to get into the habit early of journaling because then they can get their thoughts out. And as they start to have more thoughts, they can reflect, you know, better
And
on
practice
what's going on.
articulating those thoughts and feelings.
Correct, correct. And so, I'll have them do like a chapter summary so that they can reflect on what they read, or I'll have them just write, what was it, 3, 2, 1, three things that you learned, two things that were interesting, or no, three things you're grateful for, two things that you learned, and then one thing that you struggled with.
Mhm.
So, they'll do those kind of journal entries on a consistent basis, and I mostly am just checking completion, but we also look at handwriting. We look at the quality of their content. Are
We
you,
have those like nuanced skills that they're not getting at school. School is very completionist. Did you turn in the assignment on time? Yes. And I'm like, did you slow down and write the paper that you turned in legibly?
yeah,
So we're helping them with nuanced stuff.
yeah. And so when I get to the weeks, I looked at Q3, and Milo's got like, oh my God, he would have like a green and then a red and then a green. So we do red, yellow, green, because we want him to hit at least a certain threshold, right? And what is it, 85%? So we want you to be 85% or higher. And if you're below that mark, right, then you're okay, you're in the yellow zone. And then if you are like a D or below, then you're in the red zone. So what he had was like on and off, right? Every other week in Q2. In Q3, he just had like a bunch of bad weeks. And then in Q4, he's now got 6 weeks straight green.
Right?
And what's the difference? I took away his ability to play video games on the weekends. So now, in the absence of game time, he has to read. And I'm like, there's nothing keeping you from getting ahead. And
Mhm.
so he gets to choose what to do with that time while he's not gaming, he can still hang out with the friends. He can
Yeah.
still make connections with the friends. But what
Mhm.
he has chosen to do is to spend some of that time gaming or hanging out with the friends who are gaming, and then some of the time working. And so he'll write, he'll draw, he'll work, he'll hang out. And all of these activities, I am very pleased with him doing.
I agree.
Um, and
And
then
he,
so
and he, yeah, keep going.
so the so the counter to that is like I'm like, yeah, get it, kid. The counter is bid barter banter. He's always bartering. He's and what is a barter? Barter is haggling. It's changing the terms and conditions of the deal. And then he's always bidding, which is asking for things, right? Well, crap. If you don't banter, right? Banter is asking probing questions and building rapport. If you don't banter, then you don't gain trust. If you barter, you're always going to lose trust, or not always, but you'll lose trust unless the other person actively enjoys the act of bartering with you. Like if the other person doesn't like to haggle and you're constantly haggling, you're going to lose trust. And if you don't banter at all, you're not going to gain any trust. And so all he does is barter and bid
Yeah.
constantly.
And you've explained to him the difference between those three. And so he can say the words out loud. Banter builds trust. And he understands what that means, but he cannot seem to make the connection that building trust will improve your bid and barter outcomes.
Failed wisdom check.
I know. See, that's the thing. He's building his int right now, and he's like, oh, I know what banter does, but he
Yeah.
hasn't converted it to the wisdom of if I invest in banter, if I invest in banter and reduce my barter,
Hmm.
do make a bid or a barter, if I've built that trust, the results will likely be better. And he has not made those wisdom leaps. And I keep having to remind myself when I feel frustrated, is I'm like, one thing at a time, one
Hmm.
scaffold at a time, one rung of
Hmm.
the ladder at a time. We are focused right now on reading and intelligence building because he needs information to convert to wisdom. And he's
Yeah.
still resistant to information and he's still low on information. So I'm like, okay,
Yes.
we're not there yet. Even though
Yeah.
I can see down the road and I want it for him and I want it for us, I'm like, we're not there
Yes.
yet. And he is putting effort into it. And
And here's the real rub is that he's operating from a deficit
yeah,
because he had a bunch of weeks where he didn't do what he was supposed to do. And so I actually counted it up. So he had 7 weeks last quarter where he fell below the line. And now he has 6 weeks this quarter where he is above the line. He still has 1 week to make up. He hasn't gotten ahead at all. So the
which is
rub
another
is
wisdom leap he can't make.
right is that he's like, well, if but I did so great for the last 6 weeks, and it's like, yes, well, now what you understand, like what you are learning is what debt feels like. Welcome to America.
Oh my God, don't ever let him get a credit card. Jesus.
Right. Well, this is the thing is that what I want is I want him to not just cover his debts before he starts spending again. I want him to develop a surplus, right?
Yes.
Of good behavior, of good weeks, and then I want him to invest that surplus instead of immediately spending all of the goodwill that he has just built up with us.
Yeah. And
Because right now he's break even on goodwill, but he keeps asking for stuff.
I know, and it's such a tricky timing scenario too, because here you and I are, and within 3 weeks of each other, it's his birthday and Christmas.
Yep.
And it's like, well, shit. We want to do a little of the holiday magic and we want to have a nice time and we want to see them enjoy it. They're not getting younger. So,
Hmm.
I'm like, we want, I think you and I put it on our goals list for the next 90 days when we started this quarter was like, provide a nice holiday for the kids because we have had a rough year. Like, and the kids have had to overcome some stuff. So here it is, the perfect opportunity to give to him, and
Yes.
he's not hit that surplus yet. And if
Yeah.
even though he'll hit it before Christmas, we want to, like you said, encourage him to invest, but we also want to be like, but here is a nice time, which is another unique challenge because he's got to like hit the surplus and enjoy something nice and not let that make him slack off. He's got to enjoy the nice thing and then immediately get back into the surplus.
Yes. And the thing that's hard for me is that when you ask for something all the time, I don't want to give you any more gifts.
I know.
I like, why would I give you a gift when I've just been shelling stuff out for you? And also, what I want him to do is focus on his offers more than he focuses on his ask. Because this is what I like. It's a 3-to-1 minimum give to ask ratio. You give 3 times before you ask for one. And this kid just is an asking machine.
No.
And so I want to work on that quality, whatever that happens to be. And that's a charisma thing.
Yeah.
I think that's a charisma and it's a hospitality. And that's one of our values. You're the best at hospitality. I'm like, I want to provide good experiences. I want to provide hospitality, but I often just run out of capacity and I'm like, sorry, it's below the line. I'll give it to you, but it won't be pretty.
Yeah. And so that's, I mean, I know we're way over time now, but
Yeah.
that's that's one of those life things and one of those parenting journeys is it is complicated and it is nuanced and it is ever evolving. This is
Yeah.
not something that we're going to be like, oh, we're going to accomplish this by January and then we're done. Like
Nope.
it's ever evolving because we are their parent forever, for as
Yeah.
long as we are alive. Even when they become adults, we are still their parent.
Yeah.
So, it's
I'm trying so hard to like keep my Scrooge at bay, and you are doing an excellent job at tempering my frustration and checking me because it's like a failed to shut the fuck up test.
so that's what's
Uh,
so funny is we had a mini check-in just today. Perfect example. You came downstairs for lunch before the kids got home, and it is kind of shaping up to be a frustrating day. And you were like, man, I really want to like say something nice to that kid, but I'm afraid he's going to walk in the door and push on a button on a day where I'm already stressed. And I was like, that's reasonable. You could choose to disappear and say nothing. That's a perfectly valid and sometimes optimized choice.
but
And
I
then I
didn't
was
see him
like,
before school.
I know. So I was
Yeah.
like, what if you said this? Would that feel disingenuous? And you were like, in this one part, kind of, but the rest of it felt okay. And you took a deep breath and they came home and you said the thing and you said it sincerely and it went well. And he didn't poke.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, that made me, I was like, oh, okay, we can do this because we are a D&D party and we can help each other pass the checks.
Yes. And that I love. I love that our family is becoming a D&D party.
Mhm.
You are our support caster. I'm the battle mage. We've got a budding rogue and who we hope will become a ranger.
Mhm.
And we have a budding wizard who I think he might also have some battle mage tendencies, but he is definitely a barbarian.
Let's
So,
say he leans heavy in the tank all of a sudden.
yeah,
He hit puberty and he's like, I
he's
want to hit
very
things with my
tanky.
axe. Like,
Yeah, so he's gonna have you know what he's gonna have? He's gonna have like enchanted weapons.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
He's like, oh, that was the conversation we had. He's like, I want to boost my fighting skills. And I was like, okay, what's one of your goals? And he's like, I want to be good at music. Oh, how are the fighting skills going to help you with music? Well, you asked me two separate questions, and I was like, these are not two separate questions. One question follows the other question. What you put your stats into now will determine whether or not you achieve your goal later. And he was like, well, I didn't think that they were connected. And I was like, failed wisdom check.
My God. Again, parenting. So proud, so frustrated. Like,
Yeah. But now, like,
that's how it be.
I gotta let them pass some checks though. I gotta like really be on the lookout because again, I'm a problem solver and I tend to notice the bad.
And here's the thing where it sometimes frustrates you when I push for this, but
Mhm.
there's a morale component to like, maybe we could just make this check easy and give them a guaranteed pass. And you're like, that is not learning. And I'm like, what? It is
You're a
encouraging.
hundred percent correct.
It is encouraging. And we need to keep their morale up and we need to keep them going. And you have been very generous. And like Thanksgiving break, right? They had extra
Mhm.
days off from school. And because Milo has done so well, you're like, while he's got this extra time, I'm going to give him a pass.
I
Let me
gave him a
play.
gift.
You gave him a gift. You're like, I'm going to let him play video games with the friends on the extra days off.
Yep.
And we also, we made them give up their bedroom that weekend so we could host family. And we're like,
Mhm.
y'all can sleep on the couch with the animals. You know what I mean? Like, so
And they do that. I mean, they'll do that anyway
yeah,
sometimes.
and
They're
it
just
was
like,
fine. But it was like he really enjoyed it and he was excited and he was thankful. And then the next week he was bold and he was like, oh, I did well again this week. Does that mean I can play again now? And you were like, no, it does not. And he was like, oh. But he took it and he was
Mhm.
like, okay, got it. He did not push back and he did not complain and he did not beg or barter. He just accepted it and he went about his business. And so I was like,
I want to keep giving him past constitution check,
I know. So yeah,
right?
you did, and you did, and you tell them that you're proud of them. And so that's the thing. We do the little morale boost and we give them gifts and we give them boons and we give them some checks that they can pass. And then it keeps everybody moving forward. If the overall trend is always forward, then I feel like we're doing the right thing.
Sorceress, cleric, multi-class,
Yeah, and Bard. I want to be
and bard.
to be the family
You know
hero.
what? You're so
Oh,
yeah. The bard, the actually, you know what? You might not be a cleric as much as the bard because the bard can um do buffs for the team. So you're still the support caster, right? Because you do have some spells, but you've got like some healing spells, you got some like team up spells, you've got some lull the enemy, confuse the enemy with your kindness spells going on from the bard side. So I may have jumped to the cleric conclusion just because you've got healing spells, but I think you're sorceress bard.
mm,
Hmm.
maybe I'm a cleric understudy or something.
You can triple class. The challenge with triple classing, take it from a triple classer,
Mm.
is that you don't really maximize any one stat. It's hard to max out one of your classes if you've got too many other class builds.
Yes, that is accurate. And I'm like you, I'm like, challenge accepted.
Yeah. I'm
Because
over
I
here trying to be
also,
the avatar and like learn
right?
all of the four elements.
And I am. And I also come from the world of theater, which the whole game is they're like, you have to be a triple threat. You have to act, sing, and dance. You have to be a
Mm.
triple threat. You have to do it. And so I'm like, I have to do some of both. Even if I maximize one, I have to do some of all three. So you're like, you could triple class it. And my theater kid brain was like, yes, that one.
Mhm.
That's how it should be.
So this is also MMA, right? You got to be good at striking, at grappling, and at takedowns. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I
Hmm.
do think that you can get these stats built up.
Yeah.
Um, but the more time you have to learn from trial and error, the fewer the stat points you'll get, but the better you know your chosen skill because you know all of the things that don't work.
Yeah.
However, if you get like a really good training program, then the training program will build your stats up, but you don't know what it's like to fail or to
Yeah.
learn it by yourself with no support.
Yeah.
So you and I are really good at like really quality knowing because we've had a lot of trial and error. These boys, I'm again concerned that if I give them too much scaffolding, they don't learn to make their own.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
tough balance. That's a tough balancing act to walk.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that
So,
we're constantly like talking about it and reviewing and checking in and yeah, makes me feel positive.
yeah. I think I'm I think these one we got a good batch of kids. I think that's something where we definitely lucked out.
Agree.
I'm gonna thank your genes for that. Um,
They're good dudes.
and so it is not always easy to parent them, but it is always a pleasure to parent them.
And it is always a joy for me to parent with you.
Strongly agree.
Big privilege.
Yeah. The power of friendship.
Haha, right? They
Yeah.
can make the follow-up article on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we've got we're at 90 minutes, so
Okay,
all right.
let's wrap it up. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Ignis.